as many of my professors did, I'm going to start off with a story in a sense. And hold on, let me go back. If you see my glasses going, wiggling around everywhere, why they fall off my face, it's because the hinge broke off of them and I'm struggling. But let me get back to what I want to say. And so what I want to talk about is Teddy Roosevelt. And I think that we know him as an exceptional president within the early part of the 20th century, in the early part of the 1900s. Hold on, I gotta take these off. And if my eyes look a little crazy, I'm sorry, but I gotta take those off. The one thing that I admired about Teddy Roosevelt is that as an avid hunter, he understood that if he did not preserve the land in some sense of the way, that future generations, younger generations, would not be able to do the same activities that he did. And that because of that, he went about creating the national forest that we know today. And that is something that I really admire about him. He did other things as well, but that's something that I really enjoy. And I don't know if taking care of the land per se is a Republican value as a whole, or if it's just something Teddy Roosevelt, to a sense, cared about. But if it is a Republican value, if it's something that's supposed to be withheld in the Republican Party, I don't know. From what I see, I don't know if that is something they are upholding anymore, especially when I see them as avid individuals. Let me rephrase that. Especially when I see them as individuals who are highly advocating for oil and coal to be the center point of energy. And I want to make this very clear. I'm not against non-renewable energy. As an individual, I do not understand, though, why we're trying to make a big argument about which is better, when I feel that for people in the United States and who are blue-collar workers, I feel like adding renewable energy to the energy sector would help people more than trying to divide them and pick which one is better and which one would make you more money. Like, I think both would just be okay. I don't want to get rid of one and have the other. I think that's just ridiculous. I don't think that's how things are going to work. Like, I don't think we should be trying to divide people, trying to figure out which source of energy is better, when in reality, we can just have both, if that makes sense. But let me continue going on. That's not what the focus of what I'm trying to talk about is. I'm trying to figure out which one's good or better. Instead, though, if you would look, but what I will say, though, is that when you look at non-renewable energy sources, and I know that, clean energy or green energy has its downsides too. One thing that I learned studying economics, because when you're a history major, you have to take, a few economic courses. The one thing they teach you is that it's called opportunity of cost. When you do something, there will be consequences to something. And I think, everything in this world, everything we choose does have a consequence. But my problem is that when I hear the revival of coal and oil, and I think about how it does have a much more devastating impact to the land to a degree, it kind of concerns me, because I don't hear many Republicans, at least from what I've heard, and if there are resources out there or an article or something you can direct me to, please let me know. Because these are things that I've observed, these are things that I've seen, things that I'm not seeing from the Republican Party, is that I don't see them really talking about how they will restore the land or how they will hold companies accountable if something happens. For example, we know that in the Gulf, BP has been responsible for much of the oil spilling that goes on there. They even made a movie called, the Deepwater Horizon, when BP was very neglectful, and it caused the oil rig to blow up. And my problem is that, if we go about doing more drilling in more areas, especially something too the Republican Party wants to do is drill more national forests. If we have an instance, let's say, because I do know that here in West Virginia, I think if I read it right, there's 10,000 acres that were restricted solely for oil fracking. But my concern is that if something does happen, if we start drilling in national forests, more in national forests like we want to do, if there is an incident where something does catch on fire, the oil rig does catch on fire, something does happen, and I think about how that is going to affect the ecosystem that is in, and then if that does happen, will we be holding these companies accountable? Because I feel like when I hear many of the people within the Republican Party, I feel like are going to side with the company and not make them be accountable for what they did. And for an individual like me, I live in rural America, and much of rural America is surrounded by forest, and that's where we get most of our economic growth from, or our economic stability, because we have tourists come in during the spring and summer months, and they enjoy our hiking trails, or enjoy kayaking, they enjoy things like Black Waterfalls, which is a very important waterfall here in West Virginia. And it just worries me that if we aren't cautious, cautious in the sense of the way that we don't hold companies accountable, if there is a disaster with oiling, if fracking, it will devastate us even more. And another thing too is that, the revival of coal mining, and like I said, I don't care if it's renewable or non-renewable energy. My big deal is that many times coal mining does strip the land. You can look up pictures here in the Appalachians. It does strip the land very badly. And when you strip the land of, this is something basic, this is a basic general understanding. When you strip the land of the plants, it leads to erosion. And erosion is going to lead to landslides and things, natural disasters in that sense. And not only that, erosion leads to soil depletion, meaning in that area, the soil is not going to be very nutritious for anything that you need to plant there. So there's that. And actually here in Boone County, a company, a person, had it in their right mind and in their heart to actually go about, they actually go around to coal mines that are no longer active, and they actually plant lavender and have bee farms on these areas in order to promote an ecosystem. But my problem is that I think that we, even in our own communities, we have a limited understanding to what non-renewable energy does to the land. And like I said, I'm going to say it again, I'm not against it, but I think that with non-renewable energy, I would like to see Republicans, though, talking more about, if we use this land, this is what we're going to do. Or we're going to invest in this company, like in Boone County, that is going to go in, that's going to help restore the land to ensure that no type of ecological problems are going to devastate the communities around them or the animals and things like that. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. And that's why I feel as if and I don't talk about the Republican Party or Trump to criticize them, to attack people. I talk about them because I live in a red state and these are the people who voted for him. But I am concerned for them, and I try to wrap my head around why they would vote for individuals who, to me, seem as if they have a lack of understanding of the land and how we use it to our advantage to bring in tourists and what it could do to us, if we as poor communities had some type of ecological disaster, we wouldn't be able to, we couldn't take that type of hit. A small farmer couldn't take that hit if there was oil fracking near his farm and oil or a natural gas got into the water, and now what is the community going to do? These are the things that I feel like need to be addressed when we're talking about non-renewable energy, when Republicans are talking about that. And like I said, I'm not trying to attack them. I'm not trying to attack the Republican Party, Trump, or even the people that voted for him, but that's just something that I think needs to be brought to light. I just think that, like I said, either everything has its pros and its cons, but I feel like the Republican Party, to me, from what I hear, from what I see, they don't really talk about they don't talk about that. They don't talk about, what are we going to do if this happens? This is how we're going to make it safer for people and the environment. This is how we're going to restore the environment. This is how we're going to clean it up. And when they talk about, defunding or dismantling the EPA, that has me concerned because of those issues. And not only that, for me, also too, I get that. I know some people, I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong if you believe in global warming or climate change, but the environment does affect us. And if you look historically at people, indigenous communities, especially here in North America, understood that if we do not take care of the environment will bite back, and it will bite back hard. And not only that too, if we're thinking about Christian values, the Republican Party is always talking about Christian values. If we're thinking about it in that manner, wouldn't you want to take care of the land that God believed was good? He created the land before he created humans. But when he rested on the seventh day, when he done created everything, God said, what I created was good. And if you really think about it, the land doesn't need people to take care of it. Whether you're looking at it from a religious standpoint or a scientific standpoint, nature does not need human beings to take care of it. It knows exactly when something needs to die. It knows exactly how to rejuvenate the soil. It knows exactly when to grow and when to bloom. It knows what to do. We as people, though, there's so many people who just have a disregard for nature. And even here within rural America, I feel like in a sense we're almost becoming like that. We live in we live in these forests, we live around lakes and rivers, and we fish and we hunt. But I think to a degree, with the Republican Party instilling this fear of change in us, this fear of we can make things better and improve, we are almost going away from our roots and what we cared so much about, just so that we can ensure that we can have more money in our pockets, I guess. That ensure that, you know what I mean? And it's kind of frightening to me, that idea that we would rather, I don't know if anything what I said made sense, but that's just how I'm becoming to look at things, that people that are surrounded by nature are beginning, whose ancestors have lived in it, who migrated to rural America, who have lived in it for so long, that it seems today that they have such a disregard for it because they hate renewable energy so much, because they want to keep mining and drilling for oil, when to a degree companies aren't being held to a higher standard of just trying to make it more safer for us, both in terms of our health and in terms of the environments we live in. All because they're worried. And I'm not saying that, I understand that it's worrying to know that your community is dying because there's such a heavy dislike of fossil fuels. But what I'm trying to say is, do not limit yourself. That's the problem too, is that we're limiting ourselves to one sector. just non-renewable energy, when I feel like we could be promoting renewable energy as well. And I actually have windmills near me, and I know I don't understand what people say, like I've seen them do good. Like, they don't seem to be a nuisance or a peasant, and I see the area around them is green and full of life. So I don't hear much noise from them. But like I was saying before, like, we shouldn't be trying to limit ourselves. I think we can see energy as a whole. We can promote renewable energy, and we should be ensuring that non-renewable energy becomes safer for our environment, because I gave examples. Like, we shouldn't be afraid to be active in our community and just say, hey, we want renewable resources, but hey, we need to ensure that if we promote this industry more, coal mining and oiling, drilling for oil, that it's safe for us, that it's safe for our environment. That's all we have to do. And like I said, I don't know if the Republican Party advocates for that part of it. I know they advocate for oil and coal mining and fossil fuels, but I don't know. I don't really see them actively promoting that companies will be held accountable if something happens. Maybe in the past they did, but from what I see today, in this moment, no. And like I said, point me to something, like an article or resource, so, because that's what I want to see, because I don't want to feel this way anymore. I want that perspective to change. I don't want to feel this way no more. That I don't want to have the fear that if these industries do get revived, that I'm worried that the land around me will be destroyed. Because then these communities really will be in trouble, because the little bit of money we have already will not be able to fix the ecological disasters that will occur, if that makes sense. So just that's all I have to say. And I hope that, I don't know if other people feel this way, maybe they do. I don't want to feel this way, and I don't want other people to feel this way. Having fear, like FDR said, fear, the only thing we should fear is fear itself, because fear, it will put you in a chokehold. And fear really does something to you psychologically. And it worries me, and I'm full of fear that's how it will be if these industries get revived. And I don't want to feel that way. If that makes sense. I don't want to have to worry about my community when it's already in economic stability as it is. And I don't want to have to worry more that now not only are they poor, but now the land around them has been ruined, and they can't even use it to their advantage, to grow their food, to fish, to hunt. The animals around them are dying, and they're also unhealthy. You know what I mean? That's all that I worry about. Like I said, it's not to attack the Republican Party. It's not to criticize them. It's just, I want to ensure that if these things do take place, will you ensure that they are safe and that they are friendly to the people that are promoting them into the environment that they will be in?